Welcome to the Eczema Solutions Summit. My guest today is Naomi Aldort. She is the author of Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, published in 20 languages. She guides parents on Zoom or Skype and hosts workshops and family intensive retreats on how to have peace without having to control. It is a way of being and of understanding children so they can do their best out of their own free will. She also guides families about diet and lifestyle that promotes emotional and physical well-being and impacts a child's behavior, sleep, health, and learning. Naomi works holistically toward peaceful and powerful parent-child relationships and a self-assured, caring, and competent child. Her self-communication formula has been praised as providing the best of the work of Byron Katie and nonviolent communication combined and more. Naomi, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So, what do you think causes eczema in children today?
Well, I can tell you one thing, it's not in the skin. Because a lot of people are focusing, and when they ask questions what to do with it, they want to do something to the skin, put something on the skin. And there are things that I will suggest that you can put on the skin to calm it down, but you don't want to suppress it, because what conventional medicine does to the skin is steroid based, and it just suppresses it, which means the cause is not eliminated, but aggravated, because anything we suppress wants to find another way and works harder to do it more.
Wow.
So you definitely don't want to do that. But the causes are very unknown for a lot of people. And one that I really like to start with, because it starts before the birth of the child, even before pregnancy, is birth control pills and antibiotics that has been used in pregnancy, before pregnancy or during lactation. So what happens when you take birth control pills, or it's the same as antibiotics, it destroys your flora. And the destruction of the flora passes on to the baby. Even if you stopped a few months before you got pregnant, your flora has not built up unless you worked real hard at it and stopped way ahead of time. And even then, I really, birth control pills it's a whole other subject. It's a lot of long-term side effects. So I definitely do my best to get mothers off of it, or mothers to be. But that's one huge cause of it. So that's something to know and to plan in advance if you still can. And if the baby or you had to take any antibiotics, to really build the probiotic and prebiotic back in the child's system. So probiotic by itself just goes through the body. People think if you just take probiotic, you'll get it. But if there's no prebiotic to feed it, then it's not going to stay there, not going to do any good. So it's important to do it also naturally. This is, I'm very much telling parents, don't take pills, eat food. So fermented food, raw food, prebiotic, fermented food for the probiotic. But if you did take pills or antibiotics, or and your child has eczema already as a baby or young child, then at least you know why it is. And you know that the child, so we'll talk later, I assume, about how to help the child to be done with it, because it's totally curable. But it's not in the skin. The body is trying to clean up and reacts to lack of bacteria and toxins in the body. So another cause is formula. The formula is full of toxins. It's not a good baby food. So it's mostly sugar, corn syrup, soy, which is aggravating for most people and babies, and it also soy harms growth in general.
Wow.
So if you're not breastfeeding, I recommend raw goat milk is #1 replacement. and raw cow's milk is second. Some people can get their hands on camel milk and they say even better, but I don't know about that. I haven't tried it. But I did see people supplement with goat milk, raw goat milk. People are very brainwashed by the propaganda of raw, but the dangerous one is not the raw, but the pasteurized. Not only that, but raw milk in general helps specifically with eczema, even on the skin, but and internally. What happens when it's pasteurized, it actually causes allergies, and this is allergy, it's autoimmune eczema. So you don't want to use pasteurized milk either. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to use milk, all this artificial stuff made of seeds or nuts like almond milk, and there's for eczema not a good idea, because those are also full of toxins. And that's why if the child is older, there are some toxins in plants that cause eczema. Most of us are not affected by it and can eat it just fine, but plant toxins, number one that aggravates eczema is salicylates.
Wow.
And salicylates are almost in every green vegetables and in a lot of even fruits. There are very few fruits and hardly any vegetables that don't have salicylates. And I'm not against plant food. I'm just saying if you have eczema or tendency to allergies or issues, then really go online and see the list of food with salicylates and avoid them. And it's quite a long list, and different websites have different lists. So you have to kind of combine them and then experiment. The other are oxalates, lectins, and phytic acids. They're all causing inflammation, allergies of one kind or another. So this is not only to know about eczema, but about other autoimmune allergies, sneezing, red eyes, whatever allergic reaction people have. And those are especially in seeds, seed oils, and I mean seeds like the seed of the plant, grains, beans, nuts, seeds, and the oils of those. And this is good news, because when you learn for the sake of eczema not to use seed oil and seeds and nuts and beans and grains, do it for the whole family, because it's a healthier idea anyway, because those have those toxins. The plants don't want you to eat the seed, just like we don't want anybody to destroy our babies, our seeds, what creates babies, right? So that's why they create fruit. The fruit is much healthier or easier to digest and assimilate for people. A lot of the vegetables we eat today did not exist even 50 years ago, and we swear by them as being so healthy. And yes, they do have a lot of nutrients in them. Children cannot generally assimilate those nutrients very easily anyway. So bread, for example, has gliadin, which causes eczema in a lot of children. So the gliadin is what causes gluten. So it's one of the worst seeds. So the seed part of the plant, the leaf, the root, is not what the plant wants you to eat, because that destroys it and its offsprings. But it creates fruit for you to eat. So in general, philosophically, we're supposed to eat fruit, to eat meat, to eat eggs, to eat fish, to hunt and gather, and then we're healthier.
Okay.
Another cause, I have on the list a couple of more things of what causes the eczema. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, and this will be controversial because it's a controversial subject right now, vaccines. So if you gave vaccines to the child, or you had vaccine while you were pregnant, that could mess up the immune system to the degree that it causes autoimmune system things, including eczema. Each body does different autoimmune. And some people, it doesn't do it to them, but it definitely can be a cause. So if you have a baby with eczema, don't give them vaccines. And then in terms of the skin, Disposable diapers, don't use them, use cotton, organic cotton ideally. They will also be out of diapers by age 1 or 2 at the latest with cotton, and age 4 if you're in disposable. And the disposable diapers are not so innocent on the whole system. They have chemicals in them to absorb the stuff, and those chemicals get into the baby's skin, the bloodstream, not really good in many, many ways. Soap. Babies don't have to be soaped. Rinse them. And lotions. Yes, the lotions, all kind of concoctions that people put on the skin often makes it worse. The skin wants for the toxins to come out, and it comes out with some kind of a rash. And so anything we put to suppress it, and I'll talk about things to put to just calm the itch, not to without suppressing. But anything we put to suppress it that has a list of ingredients is going to be overall, even if it feels good initially, is going to be a cause of the flares getting more and more rather than less and less.
Wow. So would you say that one of the main causes is that children and people with eczema don't have good digestion?
It's possible, good. It's not only.
Okay.
And I want to be really clear. I should have said it in the beginning. I'm not a medical professional.
Yes, thank you.
I'm a parenting professional.
Yes.
But because of that, every time parents tell me of problems, also medical ones, and I raised 3 children in a very, very healthy way. I've studied hundreds of books and helped lots of families, but I always disclaim, I'm not a medical professional. So, do your own research, consult your doctor, or your nutritionist, or your naturopath, whoever you like to consult. But I have a lot of knowledge simply as a human being, and as a human being that works with parents.
Of course.
So repeat your question now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can move on to the next one. We know that eczema rates today are so much higher than they were 50 years ago. Why do you think we're seeing the rates of eczema just continue to rise?
The human body is designed to stay well, and it needs to clean itself from toxins and for stuff that is not well. And all sicknesses are basically the body is trying to scream and say, this is bothering me, or I need to clean this out of me. So we have pollution, we have chlorine in the water. So I really recommend to put chlorine, filters for the whole water system, not just for your drinking water. You want to wash your children, you don't want to stand in a shower where they breathe the fumes of chlorine and get it through their skin as well. And a lot of places have fluoride in the water as well, in the cities especially. And those water filters that also filter the fluoride are really expensive. So not everybody can afford that, but at least you can take the chlorine out. But if you can afford it, definitely get a system that takes the fluoride out too. But again, so we get some chlorine in the water on the body and in the drinking and in the cooking and in everything. We get some fluoride, which is a toxic waste and very toxic and bad for brain development, as well as the body wants to clean itself from the toxins. And then we breathe, depending on where you live, you get it through the air, through the water. And if you don't eat only organic, and even the organic is hard to guarantee is 100% clean because the air isn't clean. And, the pesticides are being flying from other places. But try to eat local and organic, and feed your children local and organic, and live in places that the air is not so bad as much as you can, and clean your water. And then the last one, and maybe the main source, is the vaccines. People think vaccines are innocent and they think they work. That would be a whole other subject. So I recommend to parents to do their own research and read books that explain how the vaccines mess up the immune system, because artificially overactivating a certain immune system against something specific, and it causes lots of problems, because when you see it, all the diseases we have today, they're 99% autoimmune.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at hunters and gatherers, they don't have any of those.
No.
Nothing. You go, Eskimos, before we settled there, before they eat Western man food, they never heard of cancer, diabetic. They all are fit and healthy and they don't need braces either. They don't have braces. There's so many things we're paying the price for our war against nature and our fear of nature. So I always say, instead of being afraid of nature and injecting ourselves with all kind of warriors against nature, we need to learn to dance with nature and to develop strong immune system and to be out in the mud more and to let our children sit and play in the mud and smear it all over their skin. By the way, that can be very helpful also physically.
Yeah.
Eat to eat clay, to be part of life, and to build and not eat sugar. This thing about, we can't not eat sugar. I can, maybe you ask me a question later. I don't know about how to keep the diet clean when everybody else, does parties and birthday parties. And even in school, they give you junk food and sugars. It's really, really bad. But I succeeded, and I know a lot of families who raise their children 100% without sugar. Sugar is toxic. So I teach how to be flexible so it doesn't become a big deal that the child just wants even more of. And I have great recipes for sweet things that are completely healthy, including ice cream that's you can eat as much as you want because it's completely healthy.
Yeah.
So there are lots of ways to make candy, healthy stuff, so children can have their fun. That, candy didn't exist, commercial candy and all this sugar didn't exist in society. And we're the sickest, rich society there ever was. And even without the rich, poor, simple societies that live in nature, hunt and gather, don't have our diseases, no eczema, no nothing. They never heard of this. Those are, and I think vaccines play huge role in because it's not just messing the immune system, but because of all the additives that are extremely toxic. So now the body has to get rid of the toxins on top of being confused in terms of the immune system.
Wow.
And anxiety doesn't help either. Eczema is definitely related also to emotions. And we get anxious, then if we have a tendency to get it, then we're going to get it more when we're anxious. And we're a generation of anxiety.
Do you think that if a parent is very anxious, it's going to keep the child in that cycle of the eczema flare-ups?
I think the parent anxiety does rub off on the child. And, if they're babies, especially, it's important to breastfeed. But if you breastfeed and you're anxious and you're eating toxic stuff yourself or taking vaccines or antibiotics, the baby's getting it through the milk. So I'm very, very hot on breastfeed your babies as a first option of feeding babies. But make sure your milk isn't toxic too, with your anxiety, among others. But even without breastfeeding, with older kids, definitely parental anxiety rubs off on children. And it's somewhat hereditary, the tendency for it. But hey, work on yourself. That's why people call me, when I give sessions, a lot of people, what I have to do in the session is help the parent not be so anxious.
Yeah. Do you think there are some families who already eat healthy and they live low toxic lifestyles, and they're also experiencing, or they also have children with eczema? Could you tell us why that could be if a family is already eating healthy?
Well, what you call eating healthy may not be so healthy. That's reason number one. Because like what I mentioned before, you know, people consider themselves eating healthy and they're vegan, which means what they eat is a lot of vegetables. And the vegetables have a lot of great nutrients that children are not absorbing. And they have a lot of toxins that do a lot of harm and also take the nutrients out of the body. And they may think if they drink organic milk, for example, or soy milk, you know, those things can cause eczema. So, and you know, so what we call healthy food, honestly, from what I see, people who eat real food, nothing processed, no tricks like soy cheese, you know, tofu, those are not, you know, there's tofu doesn't grow on trees. Neither is bread, no matter how whole grains, it's still grains. And you wouldn't eat a grain. You wouldn't go to a field of wheat and pick it up and, wow, so yummy, and start eating this thing. You couldn't technically even do it. You have to process it, so many processes. Get the powder out and sift it and do this and do, and then you can't eat it. Now you have to soak it and bake it and put other things in it and put it through heat. And it's not food. It's not meant for humans. It's ridiculous what we're creating food as if God, nature didn't create food for us. You know, people who eat the food as it created, I have never yet met a person with eczema.
Wow.
Who didn't take the pills, I mean, all these details, pills, antibiotics. So when you say families who eat, you know, healthy, I would show you that those families that we say eat healthy, no, it's not healthy. Not in, you know, it may be healthy for the parents. Maybe they're vegan and it works for them. And they have a great, you know, my digestive system cannot do vegan. I mean, people go through it. I was vegan for years. It almost killed me.
Yes.
And people eat vegan and they seem to thrive so far anyway. Great. But, you know, I healed the moment I got back into red meat.
Yeah.
You know, I had to. And now I'm almost carnivore. I mean, I eat the meat or I'm not well. I juice my vegetables because they're so hard to digest otherwise.
Okay.
And I try not to cook because I think that makes it more toxic in different ways. So anyway, yeah, are they really eating healthier or lifestyle? You know, is the water clean? Are they breathing clean? Are they putting lotions? Are they using shampoos that go into the bloodstream, even the organic ones, through the skin of the head, the lotions, the sunscreen? Are they sitting in the sun enough or are they afraid of the sun? Another huge deal. Very good for eczema to be in the sun.
Yeah.
Very good for everything to be in the sun. But we've been indoctrinated for the sake of sales of sunscreen to smear our children, ourselves with the sun. I mean, if you have very white skin, I shouldn't talk. I don't have that white skin, but I used to burn. And when I changed my diet, I stopped burning no matter how long I'm in the sun. It's amazing, you know, because, and, you know, if you soap your body, you'll burn in the sun. If you don't soap it, and, you know, if you have especially a white skin, put a hat. Don't go in the hottest days in the equator or in the desert, depending on where you live. Check online. Today, you can check online and know what's the UV. You know, if it's a very high UV, then no more than 10 minutes. Children playing outside, give them a hat, long sleeves, or be in the shade. That's all you need to do. There's a lot of ways to avoid burning. You want to avoid burning. You don't want to avoid the sun. The sun is life-giving. We can't live without it. Every plant that we eat would not be there, and vitamins won't be there without it. And sunglasses, by the way, prevent you from getting vitamins because most of the nutrients you get from the sun, look at the sky, you get nutrients at the blue sky, even at the clouds. Can't look straight at the sun, but be in the sun and looking at bright things and get your eyes used to it, or with closed eyes initially. And you get a lot of nutrients and vitamin D, of course, which getting it in supplements is It's a steroid. It's, it's getting hormones. It's not really good for you. But if you eat egg yolks and fish and liver, you get vitamin D. So get it from the sun. So that's another reason people can say I'm living very healthfully, I'm eating healthfully, but they smear their children with sunscreen, which is toxic and prevents them from getting the good stuff from the sun. So air, water, anxiety, a lot of people who are into healthy lifestyle are more anxious, actually. It's like,
yeah, I was just going to ask, it's a good segue into that. You think people experience more anxiety today over health issues than people before?
Yes, and and this includes me. I was a health food freak, and I was definitely more anxious about what my children eat, and it rubbed off. So I don't touch this, don't touch this, and we ended up eating very well over time. But I was an example of what I say, they're saying they're eating very well. I said we're eating very well. And with what I know now, no, we didn't. We ate everything that says organic on it.
Yeah.
Packaged food that said organic on it and organic ingredients, but it's processed food. I don't care if it's organic. Organic sugar, organic wheat, it's still wheat and sugar. Now we ate organic cookies. We made organic cookies with peanut butters. Peanuts are beans, it's the we got all. So we just don't know to eat really healthy. Eat what nature gives you that's edible as is.
Okay.
Without doing, that's my definition. If you can go pick it up or hunt it or gather it, like our ancestors did, then it's food. If you have to do things to it to make it into food, it's likely to be toxic, because nature, or if somebody's religious, God doesn't make mistake and give us stuff that is bad for us. And it doesn't intend for us to take stuff that is bad for us and turn it into something we can eat. Did you know that if you feed just a couple of beans raw to a mouse, it would die?
No. Wow.
And don't try to eat raw beans yourself, unless they're thoroughly sprouted. But that's why we're told to put them for 5 hours in water or overnight and then cook them for 3 hours, because they're so toxic. And then when we eat them, maybe we don't have the toxic that would kill us, but it actually turned into other toxins. And still a lot of the toxins, just not in a quantity to kill, are still doing damage. And so children with eczema, I would say, really hunter-gatherer food. And I don't cook it. People are, why the industry has been brainwashing us to be afraid of meat and always cook it so thoroughly. That's because the commercial meat is dangerous, because it's full of all the toxins they feed them and the injections they give them and the antibiotics they give them and the vaccines they give them and the pesticides, and they give them terrible food and grains. I eat only grass-fed, organic, local, meat. I've been eating like that raw for 14 years and never had any reaction to it.
Wow. Raw meat?
And I know thousands of people who do that. And nobody's getting sick. You get sick from cooked meat if the meat is commercial, especially.
Wow.
Right? And it's the same as the milk. Actually, people drinking pasteurized milk often get issues.
Yeah.
Allergies
Are you saying that the hunter-gatherers would eat raw meat?
Absolutely. And I study some anthropology. They ate it raw. And when they discovered fire, so first of all, for millions of years, there were no fire. And of course, they ate everything raw. We're a mammal, and like every mammal, we're designed to eat the food the way it is. We don't have to heat it and melt it and wilt it and ruin it and take the color off it and the blood off it and the nutrition off it, right?
Oh,
but when they started fire and discovered the taste, the flavor change as a result of fire, what I studied about it and read is they put it for a few minutes. They would have a fire and sit around the fire and put it on a stick a little. So it was super rare, right?
Yes.
They just got a little bit of the flavor, probably not as healthy, but direct fire and not really cooking up all the meat. The cooking facilities we have today with pots and pans and stoves and hours of letting things cook and change and mix. I mean, we turned food into an entertainment. And by the way, as a side note about pollution in the world and climate change, if the only thing we did is stopped cooking, producing stoves, so many pots and pans, just a production of all the machines for the kitchen, for the restaurants, for, so much cleaning. I don't have work in the kitchen. I don't use my dishwasher. There's no dishes and nothing sticky and no crumbs. I save at least 3 hours a day on nothing to clean in the kitchen until I have guests. And then I see the piles and the dirt and the dishes and the pots and pans and frying pans and sticky stuff and crumbs on the floor. And I go like, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. I tell parents many times when they say, I don't have time, my child is crying, but I need to make dinner. And I say, don't make dinner, eat raw and be with your child. So it's another winning formula, not only for eczema, but for health in general. Have more time with your children, do less in the kitchen. You don't have to turn your food into entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's you want to. And do you want to turn your food into entertainment and wilt it more than you want to be with your child and do what's best for them and give them the amount of attention they need? It kind of gives you some questions to ask, because we nature design, you have a lot more time for your children than you think you do. And a lot less cleanup and kitchen work.
Mm-hmm.
But again, most people are not going to go that far. That's fine. But do give your children, the kind of food, so we can go to the next subject. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the last question was, what are some things parents can do right now if they have a child with eczema?
Okay. So first of all, again, remember, I'm not a medical professional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without being a medical professional, have advised hundreds of parents with children who had eczema or other autoimmune diseases, and they all cured.
Wow.
Completely.
Wow.
Children. So the first thing I teach is don't have children be vegan. They neither can assimilate it, though, maybe some can, but it's not the best. It's hard. It didn't exist in history, this level of vegetables we have today. Even when I was a child, there was tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, and few lettuces. But all the other greens in huge quantities, the way our supermarket looks like a barn for cows, with those piles of kale and chard and, I'm not saying don't eat it, and I juice it, I use it some, everything in balance. But if you have a child who has a reaction, they probably are reacting to the toxins in plant food. So I would feed them mostly or all for a while. Even just a 2 month of only animal food probably will clear their eczema completely.
Yeah.
2-3 months, only animal food, and you don't have to go raw. You can cook it, just don't fry it in heat oil. Don't let it become crispy or black. That's toxic too. That doesn't help the body. Maybe do the old way. Just cook it in water or low heat, very slow and partly rare. Just make it healthy. And eat also organ meat.
Okay.
Organ meat people don't like, so you grind it with some eggs and other things in a blender to make pate. That's why they do, liver pate and all these things. Try to hide it in other things. And in the worst case scenario, you can actually buy New Zealand organic grass-fed different organ powders in gelatin capsules.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Open the capsules and mix it with the child's food, or you know, else you can swallow it. So they're more. Avoid cereal, especially in the morning. You know, this morning cereal is, you know, processed, none at all. But I would say with eczema kid, no cereal, because no grains and beans. Breastfeed and eat like this yourself. Breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. If you eat yourself well, unless you're taking antibiotics or taking injections of any kind or medications, breastfeed your babies and they'll be much better off, and take care of you eating eczema kind of diet. And of course, the child's food. Raw milk is fantastic for eczema. I've seen some people say that just a few days of nothing but raw milk made a huge difference. But I think just eating only animal food for a couple of months, and then you can start introducing. So it's like you test one item at a time, adding new things, and start with things, go for those list of food with salicylates and lectins and all that, because you want to start with foods like banana and avocado, for example, don't have as many toxins. They're fruits, so that's the first reason. And they don't, I mean, in the peat kind of fruit, you don't even eat the seed. In the banana, you eat the seeds. They're designed to come out of you the other way and be planted. But when you eat actual seeds, that's not the design, because you're chewing on them and nothing is left of them. And so you exterminated the species of that plant, which is why it's not designed to be eaten. And so in extreme cases, I would go for a few months on carnivore diet with some raw milk, maybe. Coconut oil. In terms of what to put on, get bentonite clay. And I can give you later maybe a good source of one. And maybe you can put it with the interview. You can put that on the skin. It can be calming, not always. A bath in bentonite clay could be easier, you know. So if a child likes to sit in a bath, and you put some bentonite clay on it. And also hot bath, if you have an older child who is willing to sit in a very hot bath with some salt or clay, it takes the toxins out. Use cotton diapers, organic cotton diapers, organic cotton clothing and bedding. And don't use detergent that is non-organic, or, you know, make sure it's hypoallergenic and organic. So even the bedding is important. Everything in lifestyle matters. And don't use lotions, sunscreens, like we said before. So it's on the inside. In my experience, doing things to the skin outside makes very little difference, other than calming the fire temporarily, and sometimes long-term doing harm. So that's why I say, if you're going to try to calm the fire, do it with clay. Try the mud in your yard. You never know. That could be calming, yes. Right? Or ice, you know, just cold calms a little bit. But most of the healing comes from the inside, because the body is creating it from the inside, and you don't want to suppress it. You suppress it, it comes back bigger. And if it doesn't, then the body will create a more serious sickness internal. Getting sickness through the skin is good news. Skin is a huge organ, and it's the easiest, you know it's there, and you're dealing with it. But when it starts saying, okay, I can't get out through the skin, then I'll go into the liver or the kidneys. You don't want to push the symptom or the toxins to find other routes, because the skin is a good route. It's a healthy route. So I would say when children have autoimmune issues, when the issue is through the skin, that's a very healthy, very smart immune system. It's getting rid of the stuff in a way that we can see, in a way that we can notice. And what I mean, what I said before, dance with nature, is try to help it get out. Don't stop it. The philosophy of stopping it, it's the same thing as what we do with other diseases, you know, vaccination, things to stop the fever, stop this. Don't stop the fever, help the fever. You know, my grandmother used to put feather blankets on us when we had fever so that the fever will get higher and we'll sweat and it'll do a job and kill the virus, because the heat kills the virus. But people run for the toxic Tylenol, not as toxic as some other things, but if used too much is also bad. And why? You take the fever down. The fever is your soldiers fighting the disease. Yes. And the skin is also, you know, it's like, I'm getting the toxins out. Don't stop me. Mm-hmm. Help me.
Wow, this is great. And the final thing I want to touch on, there is a new drug that they are promoting. It's called Dupixent. I'm sure you've heard about it, but I believe it's the next step up from topical steroids, where children are injected with something every 2 weeks to address that immune response. And you said that if you suppress it, it will become worse in the future and go to
another disease. So the way that goes, and I don't know this specific medicine, but it's all the same. The idea is you suppress the symptoms, so the body is looking for another outlet to get the toxins out to do its thing. So, but conventional medicine doesn't see it this way. So you get a child, you suppress the symptom, and then at age 12 or 16, they get some other autoimmune disease and nobody puts it together. Mm. Right?
Yes.
Or they get some toxicity somewhere else, or inflammation of the lungs, or inflammation of the liver, or, you know, whatever is happening. And the parents just say, you got this new disease. We're, you know, unlucky. This kid is just tending to get all these diseases. No, you suppressed one, it's going to come another way. People don't understand that we can't fight nature. We need to help nature. So the answer is the same answer. You get a disease, bless the whoever you believe in, the Lord, the nature, the body, that it's doing that, and help it finish its job. I want to give you one other example, because that will really drive it home for people. We were trained to be scared to death from throat infection. What is it called? What's the main throat infection that everybody takes?
Strep throat.
Thank you. Thank you. My brain is aging, excuse me. So when people get strep throat, they get sore throat, they take the child right away to the clinic, they do a swab, and they say, oh, if it's strep, you have to take antibiotic. Absolutely. I've advised every parent to ask their doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I recommend no antibiotics.
Yeah.
The people who do the antibiotics, the child keeps getting strep every year, and sometimes few times a year.
Wow.
Shows a healthy body. The body keeps trying. And if you keep suppressing it, they'll get something else. They'll have other problems, including depression, by the way, which is going rampant in young people today. And is connected to lots of things, but also that.
Wow.
So suppress one thing, you get another, or you get more of the same. Now, all the children that I know, that if they had, including my own, 2 of my children had strep throat. I did not use antibiotic. I let it do its course. The body learned to clear strep, never did it again. Never. Not even a second time. Not even next year. And when I ask parents, because I love to ask these questions and to see that it's not, you know, anecdotal, just my children, because I know hundreds of people. Yeah, I didn't do an official study, but every parent, hundreds, thousands that I ask, did your child have strep throat and did you treat with antibiotics? If they treated with antibiotics, oh yeah, my child keeps getting it and we keep doing antibiotics. If they got it once and didn't do antibiotics, yeah, you want to help the body finish the job. So I'm not saying neglect the child and let them go with strep throat and run around and eat junk. But if they use that time, absolutely no sugar, eating well, drinking a lot, resting, you give them, you know, maybe some herbs that are helpful. some garlic you hide in their yogurt or whatever. So I'm not saying not to do anything, and I used homeopathy, but so 4 days they had high fever and terrible inflammation, and then it started subsiding, and the body healed. The body did its job. So yeah, there are times that maybe the child has other issues, and that one strep throat could be dangerous to them. Then of course there are situations where you have to do antibiotics in life. I'm not saying never do antibiotics. If it's life-threatening, the inflammation, sometimes you have to do it. But if it's just a strep throat by itself and lots of other things, don't suppress the fever, don't suppress the strep, do things, do watch the child, make sure they're, developing and the body is still, alive and well and not wilting in other ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to be tired and feverish and all that. But yeah, so it's the same as the eczema. They always come with a stronger suppressor.
Yeah.
It works better. That means worse.
And absolutely, I agree.
And it's toxic, which means it creates eczema in the back door because it adds toxins to the body, and it doesn't let the body do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you one last thing. I never in my life had eczema until I was on an airplane. I got contact dermatitis all over my neck. So I had my own experience. And initially I freaked out because it kept spreading, and I did put steroid cream on it. But of course it came back. I'm healthy. The body knows what to do. So I went carnivore for 2 months, gone forever. It's been years. Wow. I caught it on the airplane because they put me in first class when I was public speaking in Europe. And that first class, I don't know, they must be spraying it with lots of stuff, and the blanket or whatever touched my skin. And I came home with this huge flare. I never experienced anything like it. Wow. So I know the fire. I know what it feels like. It is horrible.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, but 2 months on carnivore diet, gone forever.
Wow. Incredible.
I have to tell you that the 2 months on carnivore is something I do anytime I have any medical issue of any kind.
Oh,
it always works. But organic and grass-fed, you don't want to get those grains and beans and toxins through the meat or the eggs or the milk. So the raw milk from grass-fed animals.
Mm. You can get toxins from animals that have been fed grains.
That's right. Okay. That's right. So if your body tends to react to seeds of any kind, and grains are the seed of the plant, then you can get it through the meat as well. Of course, not as much. It's been pre-digested, etc.
Yeah.
So you don't, it depends if you're pretty well. Otherwise, you don't have to be that fanatic about it. But if you want to heal from eczema, be fanatic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Naomi. It has been such a pleasure, and you've given us so much to digest and think about. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to shed light on this, because it's the unknown.
It's very important. Yeah.
So positive, because they can cure completely, for real.
Mm-hmm. It gives us hope.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.